Hi, welcome to the coaching game. I know what day it is. It's the day that coaches creating change are going to share. Is that yeah? That's a plural. Are going to share some really cool stuff with you. Hey Terry Yoffe, how you doing?
Hello, Laurie Lawson, Coaches Creating Change. I love the title. We came up with this, I don't know how long ago,
Ages ago. Yeah.
and we've been doing this podcast for how long now?
But the whole thing started in the 2010, and then it kind of morphed into other stuff. But we've been hanging out for a while now, for sure, for sure.
And I hope that in our conversations, we have created change to those that are listening. And I hope that they find it worthwhile and informative.
And me too. And well, I know I have. Usually I come away and go, that's something really cool to think about. So what we're going to think about today is kind of how do you know when you're in alignment, and when, but how do you stand in your power, and when do you give up your power? So, and we're kind of just winging it because it's come up for both of us many times. And Terry kind of came up with the topic, so I'm going to let her get started. And I have some thoughts on it too. So take it away, Terry. What you talking about?
You certainly, I mean, they do go together because you certainly can't be in alignment if you've depleted your own power, so to speak.
Right.
I actually started thinking about this. I did a workshop on it a number of years ago, and it just popped into my mind about when we give up our power. What does it even mean to give up your power?
Mm.
And when do we take it back and stand in it? And, power, what does that really mean? It's about us as people, as human beings, that we give away our thoughts, our way of being. And we certainly give it away to our parents at very early ages because they're the ones that take care of us. The problem is they hold on to it for way too long. And we don't take it back. We give it up to friends. We give it up to feelings, emotions. We give it up to not forgiving people.
Mm.
So it's about taking ownership of who we are and what we do, in I think the simplest terms.
Boy, there's so many ways that to give up power, and you're not really aware that you're doing it. Of course, you're going to give it up to parents, and of course, as younger people, it's peer pressure all over the place. You're going to say, "Oh, okay, if everybody's doing it, I'm doing it." And then as you get older, you give it up to a boss. It's like, "Oh, okay, and this is the corporation. This is how I have to play." And there's just so many, and sometimes it's advisable to give it up. You don't want to walk around your office going, hey, my way or the highway, because you don't have that power, so you can't assert power when you don't have it. But I think we're talking more on a personal level. It's like, how do we maintain the power that we have? How do we, one, recognize the power that we have? And that you might think, many times we've all felt powerless. I think especially you and me around health situations, like, oh God, now what are we going to do? But you recently just reclaimed your power, which I think is a great way it just shows that even with health and things that are supposedly out of your control, you can claim your power. So you want to tell a little bit about that, or is that too personal? You don't have to.
No, even so in 21, I started getting really bad headaches.
Mhm.
I didn't know what they were. And I went to doctor after doctor, and nobody gave me an answer that I felt good about.
Mhm.
So I just kept forging ahead. I didn't say, oh, well, nothing anyone can do, let it go, and be miserable. And in 22, somebody told me about this great doctor, and I went to her and I started getting Botox injections. I just never gave up. And with COVID, as you know, in 22, and I developed long-term COVID, I developed something called an inner dizziness. I didn't say, oh, well, I always advocated for myself. I always went one step further, where a lot of people would give up and take the advice or the thinking of the doctor. I just did not do that. And I found great doctors to work with. And now I am actually starting to feel much better. I have now started with this incredible man who I've known, and he was on my podcast, Dr. Tyler Pansner, and he is a pioneer in genetics optimization health. And if you want to hear the episode, please go to Apple Podcasts or my website and listen. And I had him, and he started talking, and it just clicked with me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go for it. So I'm in the process of about to start his program. But a lot of people just give up. I never, ever give up. And that's part of what not turning over your power, your right to be in charge, right? It's about owning your own life, owning your own story, owning your life, and moving forward with it. I think that's really what it means.
I love it. Now, you know me, I'm going to give you the other side of the coin because I too, I have a great medical team. And in 2022, I was just walking on, I was working in the bathroom and I almost passed out. And it was like, well, that's weird, but nothing happened. And then in 2023, I did pass out in public, mortifyingly, in July. And so I said, I should go check this out. And I did. And they said, you know what? Let's do a stress test. And so I fought that. It's like, I don't want to do a stress test. I don't want to make my heart go crazy, blah, blah, blah. So I finally did the stress test. And I didn't pass it. And it was like, oh, okay. So then I had to go for another procedure. And I fought that. And it was like, no, I don't want that. And finally something came over me and I said, you know what? You're not a doctor. You have fought to say that, okay, I can handle this. I can't handle this. So it's like, so I was really afraid of this procedure that I was going for. But on the day of it, I just went, I have to surrender at this point. There's nothing I can do. I can't diagnose my own problem. And I did that. And it was like, and it was weird because you and I know we're fighters. It's like, no, I'm going to be in charge. It was like, I'm not in charge. And everything turned out okay, thank heavens. But it was only because, and I wonder if I hadn't fought so hard, if I hadn't tried to maintain my power for so long, would this have been taken care of sooner? But I feel it all happened the way it was supposed to. So that's kind of what we're talking about, the yin and the yang. It's like, yeah, we all want power, but when do you give it up? When do you say, you know what? I don't have the power, and it's okay. Someone else does. So yeah, and I guess that falls into what you were talking about, alignment. It's like how do you stay in line? Stay in alignment, I guess is better. Stay in alignment with your inner instincts and what the outside is telling you, and that's a hard tightrope to walk, I think. And then so yeah, there's both sides of the coin there. I prefer to be in power. I think most people do, but there are times when, hey, you just can't do it.
Well, yes, I agree. And you kind of were in taking charge of your power when you didn't give it up. What you did was you allowed somebody else in to help you.
Oh my gosh, what a great point. Yes, yes, yes.
You didn't give it up.
That's a great point. Yeah, yeah.
you know.
Right.
I it's I guess being in control of your own destiny as best as you can, right?
Mhm.
Um, in 2000 and so we're just talking about health. I didn't feel well. And I called the doctor and she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I have this pain." She said, "Oh my God, I think you're having an appendix attack." I said, "Oh no, I'm not. I have the flu. I have the virus. Don't be whoever thought of having an appendix
Mm,
attack?" I got off the phone. I crawled to the bathroom. I was so sick. I called her back and I said, "Okay, I guess there's something wrong. Call the ambulance." And sure enough, I mean, had I been dumb enough to wait,
mm,
as it was when they operated on me, the next morning, the doctor told my husband 5 more hours, I would have gotten sepsis. I had a burst appendix.
mm,
Luckily, that didn't happen. But, it's when it comes to our bodies and our health, it's claiming that we've got a problem and reaching out.
mm. Yeah.
Um, Nobody likes to feel helpless and hopeless. Yet, if you have a client and they come as a client and you start talking to them and working with them, you could probably notice what they've given up, um, and haven't reclaimed as their own.
That's funny. I don't know if you've seen it. Stephen Colbert has a whole same thing happened to him, and he has a whole comedy routine about how he fought at this burst appendix until the driver and took his driver ended up taking him to the hospital. He goes, "No, no, you're not well." But anyway, you should check that out. It's very funny. Actually, I know it wasn't at the time, and you've made me look at this totally differently, which I love. Like I said, we hope you learn, but we're glad when we learn too. Maybe it's not giving up power. Maybe it's knowing when to ask for help, when
Right.
to use your power
Hmm.
to discern, who can help me through this. And that makes it a lot more powerful. Let's get off health. We're
Right.
here,
I
we're happy,
agree.
we're all both doing well. How about when it comes to like a professional when you're in your job or trying to do your career thing, how do you know when to ask for help, or how do you know when to say, I'm gonna step aside and see what happens here? Do you have any hints on that?
And that's another place. I mean, you're in a toxic environment and you stay because you believe there's no other way or no other choice. Well, there are choices,
Mhm.
you know, for every reason. One is start looking for a new job.
Right.
If it's so bad, and I understand, leave, even though, there's a lot at stake. Nobody wants to be browbeaten, if you will, by a boss. Nobody wants to feel small or powerless or hopeless. And when you get a bully, which I've had, for bosses where they do things underhandedly or they're not forthright, they're bullies. That's what it is.
Yep.
And you have to make a choice of what you want to do. I mean,
And
I,
yeah, and
yes,
staying is a choice. That's a choice that you made, and it's like, okay, whatever the reward is, maybe that's bigger than the pain. That's a choice you have to make. What do you do? How do you when you because it's kind of easy to recognize it more so in clients than it is in ourselves. How do you help one clients see that, and then how do you help them rebuild their, I guess, sense of power or just awareness that they do have these choices?
well, it's all about turning your eyes inward. Obviously, you're not going to get it from out there
Mhm.
and looking at where do you feel empty? Where do you feel naked, so to speak? And looking at in your past, even, do you have a memory of when A,
Mhm.
you gave it up, and B, do you have a memory of when you actually stood in your power, when you did take charge? What did that feel like? And how do you make that happen again?
Right.
Uh,
What qualities do you have, or what qualities did you have that made you stand in your power? Sometimes that you can even relate to the present. It's like, well, where do you feel in power? And what makes you feel
Howard,
that? What about you is making you be empowered? It's just kind of sometimes we get lost, sometimes we get downtrodden, sometimes we just get, like you say, bullied into thinking that, oh, this is, it can't be. And I think it's kind of reminding people that you've got some great qualities there. How can you use them to get what you really want?
that is true because
Yeah.
people forget, they only look at the negative, but they don't remember or they don't choose to remember when they were in alignment, if you will, with everything, when
Right.
they were taking charge of their lives. And that's what this is about, really. Really taking charge of your life in every area, in every area.
Yeah, and as you said beautifully before, it's like, and if you can't take total charge, then who can help you? What resources do you have around
A
you?
coach.
There you go. That's a couple plugs. We like that. No, definitely, that is the job of your coach if you have one, and if you don't, maybe get one. But yeah, that's someone from the outside who can get you out of the mindset that you're in, that you're very familiar with, maybe a comfort zone, maybe not, maybe you're uncomfortable, but yeah, someone with an outside view that can make you realize, wait a minute, you're alive and you're surviving this far, so something has brought you to this point. What is it? And how can you use it to get to where you want to be? Now, a lot of times clients aren't aware of where they want to be. They just
Right.
know, oh, I'm so unhappy. Well, how can I get happy? And that's a whole other game that you have to play as a coach. But first, and that might be the first one. It's like, well, okay, we know you're unhappy. What's going to make you happy? Yeah.
And for them to verbalize what they feel is missing, where they're not taking control. Again, even emotions, which people wouldn't really look at, can hold you hostage for sure. When something comes up and all of a sudden your emotions just blow up,
Mm.
and you take a step back and say, wait a second, how did that happen? Rather than in that split second saying, wait a second, is this a trigger? Because you don't want to allow your emotions to be caught off guard when there's a trigger from the past, which we do. A lot of people, an emotion comes up and it's from their past, they don't recognize it, and they go full steam ahead and had nothing to do with the present. So it's being able to really looking at yourself minute to minute. And how are you showing up? How are you reacting? How are you being?
It's
What's working? What's not?
Yeah, yeah, and some of the emotions that can really take you out of alignment and get you off course. It will be like anger, embarrassment, shame. What else?
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Yeah,
Sure.
just not feeling like you're not in control. And it's hard to flip those, but I think that's what you have to do. You have to flip. Well, okay, yes, that could be a detriment. How could it be something positive? How can we make this vulnerability work for you? How's that going to work? And when have you tackled it in the past, and how'd you do that? And how can we get it done today? So yeah, that's so interesting because a lot of times, many times, I'll do a percentage. I'm going to say 75% of the time, we're reacting to stuff that has happened. Maybe somebody said, it's time to dye your hair. People tell me that all the time. and it's and it's like, nope, not gonna do it. Sorry. But and it's like, so when you react to somebody goes, oh, your hair looks nice, it's like, what are they trying to say? And you just really give up so much. It's like, just say thank you and keep it moving, it's crazy. But you're reacting to things that this person didn't say, someone else said long, long ago. So it's kind of crazy. And when you realize how complicated it is, it's hard to get out of that morass, so to speak. That's why you might need an objective mind like a coach or a therapist or a good friend who's rational to sort of send you a lifeline. It's like, come on, hold on, I'm going to pull you out of this junk. Let's get out of this muck.
Right, exactly. And I think the biggest place people give up their control and their alignment is their backstory.
Mm,
We all have one. And if you've got a tough backstory, it keeps coming with you. It's like baggage. And until you own it and look at it and say, with that backstory, I learned, and for me personally, I learned so much along my journey, and it wasn't, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. And I'm on people's podcasts, and now I talk about it. I
mm.
don't hide from it. And what it created for me and the impetus it gave me to become who I am today. So first thing is we got to own our stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and be able to look at it and say, and turn it into a positive.
Mhm. You have to embrace it and not only own it, but just embrace it and go, oh my gosh, I survived that. That's amazing.
Right.
And it took me to the next step. Wow. It's so and it's like rather than go, oh, I'm ashamed and I don't want to tell anybody about that. I think one of the most fun things I learned when I first started when I did coach training was people would be saying things and I go, "Oh my God, they feel that too? Really?" And because you feel like, "Oh, I'm the only person in the world who feels this. I'm the only person who's gone through this." And when you get into a group where people are opening up and being vulnerable, it's like, "Oh my gosh, you mean you feel that too? I thought I was the only person in the whole world." And that was so much I can't say it was fun because not everything
An
that we
awakening.
awakening. Yeah, it was so awakening. It was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm not as special as I thought I was." That's a good thing, though. That's a good thing.
Right,
I like that.
right, right. We're only special in the gifts we have.
Mhm.
And if we're giving them away in a way that provides purpose and brings information and awareness to others.
Yeah, yeah. That is really, I think, what you and I both try to do. It's not that was what I did. It was as soon as I had that awakening and that awareness and many, many more, it was like, oh my gosh, I have to share this with other people. I want everybody to feel this good. And the beauty is you keep learning. You keep, it's like, oh, you never have it. It's like, oh, I got that down. Nah, you never have it down. There's always an opportunity to learn a little more. But I think that's the beauty. And if you can help other people do that, well, hallelujah. I can't think of anything more rewarding, really.
And
So,
here we are, coaches
yeah,
creating change,
for many
bringing
years.
awareness and information for others to think about and open up their own minds.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say, being in alignment, it's important, of course, when you're working, it's important to be in alignment with your team and your manager and your corporation mission, but it's more important to be in alignment with yourself. And that I think is probably the struggle that everybody goes through. And that's kind of Where you and I are, and where we try to help our clients be, and we learn from each other. And I think that's just such it's such a good topic, and I'm glad you brought it up because you think, oh, well, and a day on a day that's going good, you're in alignment. You don't care, and you don't want to think about it. But on a day that's going bad, it's like, what's wrong? How do I get back on track? And that's kind of where we're hoping that we come in and that we can, help other people come in and think of the same thing. We have like 2.5 minutes. Any thoughts on, any final thoughts on that?
I would definitely offer up, if you don't know where you are in alignment or in charge,
Mm,
turn your eyes inward, because you sure do know,
yeah.
and kind of remove the veils or the masks that keep you from knowing. And once you see it, don't be afraid to start digging in and ask for help. We're here. Um,
Yes.
and start to unpack all of
Yeah.
this.
And I
So
like the looking inward because, that's the old coaching slogan. You have the answers, I don't, but I'm going to help you get to there. But it is, and think out of the box. It's like, yeah, if this is the way you've always thought, think about, what about if you thought over here? What about if it came out of left? Is this left? No, I'm really bad on that. Have to pledge the allegiance to remember my right and my left. But anyway, did it come out of left field or right field? And rather than try to think of how else could I think of this? Um, it- yeah, I started my morning out like, oh, I don't know, and it's like, oh, I need an attitude adjustment immediately. So let me write down everything good that has happened in the last couple of days. And by the time I finished, it was like, okay, now I can think clearly. But before it was like, oh, I'm tired and I got so
I
much
know.
to do today. But so it's think out of the box, look inward. What else can we say? Don't be
And
afraid, be courageous. You can do it. You're here.
yeah, be willing to forge ahead
Mhm.
and look at how can you become the best version of yourself. What's holding you back? What's keeping you from getting what you want in life?
Right. And what powers do you have? And look around you. You're going to find evidence of your powers all over the place because you are here. You're surviving. You're thriving, probably, even though you don't feel like it right now. So look around and acknowledge your power and see how can you use it to get in alignment. Miss Yoffe, it has been delightful as usual. Thank you so much. And we will see you next month.
Thank you, Laurie. It's always wonderful seeing you and being able to create change.
Yes.
Bye, my dear.